Some battles are lost not by fighting, but by staying still. A cell door slams shut. A man sits alone on a cold metal bed. He is the most dangerous fighter on the planet. The guards know it, and they hate him for it. That man is Mike Tyson, locked away for 3 years in an Indiana prison. No cameras in the hallways. No witnesses after dark. The guards come at night. They beat him. Not once. Not twice. Every single week. They want him to fight back. One punch and he never walks out. But an old inmate serving life whispers something to him on that very first night. Something no trainer ever taught him. Something that saves his life. Decades later, Tyson's daughter finally reveals the truth her father buried for 30 years. What did that old man tell him? If the story moves you, like and subscribe. Now let me take you back. Back to the very beginning of this nightmare. It is March 1992. Mike Tyson walks into the Indiana Youth Center in Plainfield, Indiana. He is 25 years old. He is the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And he has just been convicted of rape. The whole country watched the trial. The whole country had an opinion. Half the people said he was guilty. The other half said he was framed. But none of that matters now, because the judge gave him 6 years. And the doors just closed behind him. Now here is the thing most people do not understand about Tyson at this point in his life. He is not the man you think he is. He is not calm. He is not reflective. He is a volcano. He has spent his entire adult life solving every problem with his fists. Someone disrespects him. He hits them. Someone threatens him. He hits them harder. That is the only language he has ever known. And now he is walking into a building full of men who either want to test him or break him. And he cannot do a single thing about it. The intake process is cold. They strip him. They photograph him. They hand him a jumpsuit 2 sizes too big. A guard with a clipboard does not even look up when he says his name. Tyson stands there, the most famous athlete on the planet. And nobody cares. Believe me, that is a kind of violence all on its own. They walk him down a long corridor. The lights buzz overhead. Inmates press their faces against the narrow windows of their cell doors. Some of them shout. Some of them laugh. One man spits on the floor as Tyson passes. A guard behind him says nothing, does nothing, just keeps walking. They put him in a cell on the 2nd tier. It is 6 feet by 8 feet. A metal bed. A thin mattress. A steel toilet with no seat. A small window too high to see out of. That is his world now. 6 by 8. For however long they decide to keep him. Now get this. Within the first hour, a guard comes to his cell. Not to check on him. Not to explain the rules. The guard leans against the doorframe and says 5 words Tyson will never forget. You are not special here. That is it. 5 words. And Tyson understands immediately what they mean. They mean whatever happened out there does not matter in here. They mean the belts, the fame, the millions. None of it followed him through that door. They mean he is just another inmate number. And if he forgets that, they will remind him. Tyson says nothing. He sits on the edge of the bed and stares at the wall. And for the first time in his life, he does not know what to do next. He has no trainer in his corner. No Don King on the phone. No entourage in the hallway. Just silence. And that silence is louder than any arena he has ever fought in. That first night he does not sleep. He lies on his back and listens. The prison does not go quiet after lights out. It gets louder. Men shouting down the corridor. Someone banging on a pipe. A guard's boots on the concrete floor. Slow and deliberate. Every sound is a message. And Tyson does not know how to read any of them yet. Around 2 in the morning, he hears something different. A voice. Low. Calm. Coming from the cell next to his. An old man's voice. Says, "First night is the worst. It gets different. Not better. Just different." Tyson does not respond. He does not even turn his head. But he hears every word. And something about that voice, something about the way it cuts through all the noise without raising itself, it stays with him. He does not know it yet, but that voice belongs to a man who will change the entire course of his life. A man with no fame, no fortune, no future outside those walls. A man the world has completely forgotten. And that forgotten man is about to teach the most dangerous fighter on earth the only lesson that truly matters. How to survive by doing absolutely nothing. The old man's name was Earl. No last name that anyone used. Just Earl. He had been inside for over 30 years. Convicted of armed robbery back in 1961. He was 22 when he went in. He was in his 50s now. A thin man with gray stubble and hands that shook when he held his coffee cup. He walked slow, talked slow, and everybody on that tier left him alone. Not because they respected him, because he was invisible. He had been there so long he had become part of the building. Like a pipe, like a crack in the wall. Nobody noticed Earl. And that, as Tyson would learn, was Earl's greatest weapon. The first real conversation happened 3 days after Tyson arrived. They were in the yard. Tyson stood alone by the fence. Arms crossed. I strayed ahead. Every man in that yard was watching him. Some with curiosity. Some with hate. A few with something worse. Ambition. Because taking down Mike Tyson in prison. That is a reputation you carry for life. Earl walked over. No rush. No fear. He stood next to Tyson and looked out at the same stretch of nothing. Then he said, "You keep standing like that and somebody is going to try you before the week is out." Tyson looked at him. "Let them." Earl shook his head. "That is exactly what the guards want. You throw one punch in here, they add years. They put you in the hole. They write it up so bad your appeal dies on the table. You think these men are your problem. They are not. The uniforms are. Now here is the thing." Tyson did not want to hear this. He did not ask for advice. He did not need some old man telling him how to behave. He had been managing his own survival since he was 10 years old on the streets of Brownsville. But something about the way Earl spoke. No emotion. No agenda. Just facts. It made Tyson listen. Not agree. Just listen. That same night, the first beating happened. It was after lights out. Around 1 in the morning. 2 guards came to his cell. They did not announce themselves. They opened the door quietly. One stood at the entrance. The other walked in. No words. The first hit was a baton across the back of Tyson's legs. He dropped to one knee. The second hit caught him across the ribs. He gasped. The third hit landed on his shoulder. He went flat on the mattress. Tyson's hands balled into fists. Every instinct in his body told him to get up, to swing, to destroy these men the way he had destroyed every man who ever stood across from him in a ring. His muscles tightened. His jaw locked. He was 3 seconds away from doing something that could never be undone. Then he heard it. Earl's voice. Through the wall. Barely louder than a breath. "Stay down, young man. Stay down." Tyson stayed down. The guards hit him twice more. Then they left. The cell door closed. The lock clicked. And Tyson lay on that mattress, bleeding from his mouth, shaking with a rage he had never felt before. Not because of the pain. Because of the helplessness. He was Mike Tyson. He could end both those men in seconds. And he had to lie there and take it. That was the hardest fight of his life. Not a single punch thrown. The next morning, Earl was in the food line. He did not mention the beating. He did not ask if Tyson was okay. He just handed him an extra piece of bread and said, "You made it through the first one. That is the only one that matters." Tyson took the bread. He did not say thank you. He did not say anything. But he sat down across from Earl. And he stayed there for the entire meal. That was the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, something shifted. The guards did not come back. The yard got quieter. Tyson followed the routine. Wake up. Eat. Yard. Eat. Cell. Sleep. No trouble. No confrontation. Earl sat with him most days, talking about nothing in particular. Baseball, weather, the food, simple things, safe things. And for the first time since he walked through those gates, Tyson felt something close to steady. The noise in his head went quiet. The fists unclenched. He started sleeping through the night. It almost felt like the worst was over. Like the storm had passed and all that was left was the waiting. Tyson even told Earl one afternoon, maybe they got it out of their system. Earl looked at him for a long time. Then he looked away and said nothing. And in that silence, there was something Tyson should have heard but did not. A warning, quiet as a held breath. Because the storm had not passed. It had not even started. Came on a Tuesday. Tyson remembers the day because it was commissary day and Earl had asked him to grab an extra pack of coffee. A small thing. A normal thing. The kind of thing that only happens when two people trust each other. Tyson was walking back from the commissary window when a guard he had never seen before stepped in front of him. New face. Young. Built like a linebacker. He looked at Tyson the way a man looks at something he has already decided to break. Tyson, warden wants you. Now. Now here is the thing. In prison, a trip to the warden's office can mean anything. A phone call. A rules violation. A transfer. Or something much worse. Tyson followed the guard down a corridor he had never walked before. Past the medical unit. Past a set of double doors with no window. Into a part of the building that smelled like bleach and rust. The guard opened a door to a small concrete room. No desk. No warden. Just a chair bolted to the floor and two more guards already waiting inside. Tyson stopped in the doorway. He knew. He knew before a single word was spoken. This was not a meeting. This was a message. The door closed behind him. The new guard said, "Sit down." Tyson did not sit. The first punch came from the side. Caught him just above the ear. He staggered. The second hit was a baton across the back of both knees. He went down hard. The third guard grabbed his jumpsuit by the collar and pulled him up just enough to hit him again. This was not like before. Before it was two men in the dark, quick and quiet. This was three men in a closed room with no camera and no rush. They took their time. They hit him in places that would not show. Lower back, ribs, the bottoms of his feet. And the whole time the new guard kept talking. Calm voice, almost friendly. "We heard you were settling in. Getting comfortable. Making friends with the old man on your tier. That is real nice, Mike. Real nice. But see, comfort is a privilege. And you have not earned it." Tyson lay on that concrete floor and he understood something new. The first beating was a test. This was a system. The guards were not acting on anger. They were acting on orders. Somebody above them wanted Tyson broken. Not dead. Not injured enough to make the papers. Just broken. Just enough to keep him afraid and silent and easy to manage for the next 3 years. This was policy. And that changed everything. Because you can fight a man. You can even fight two men. But you cannot fight a policy. You cannot swing at a system. And Tyson, lying there with blood in his mouth and a ringing in his ears, felt something he had never felt in any boxing ring in any city in the world. He felt completely and totally trapped. They left him in that room for 2 hours. When they finally opened the door, a different guard walked him back to his tier. No words. No paperwork. Like it never happened. Tyson went straight to Earl's cell. He stood in the doorway swaying. His left eye was swelling shut. His hands were shaking. Not from fear. From the effort of keeping them open. Earl looked at him, took a long breath, and said, "Sit down before you fall down." Tyson sat on the floor. He told Earl everything. The room. The 3 guards. The new one with the calm voice. The things he said. And when he finished, he asked the only question that mattered. "How do I stop this?" Earl was quiet for a long time. Then he said something Tyson did not expect. "You do not stop it. You outlast it." Tyson shook his head. "I cannot take this for 3 years. You are not taking it for 3 years. You are taking it for right now. This minute. That is all you survive. 1 minute. Then the next one. You stop counting days. You stop counting months. You survive minutes. That is how I have done 30 years. Now get this. This is the part that most people will never understand. Tyson sat on that cell floor and made a decision that went against every single thing he had ever been. He decided to be small. He decided to be quiet. He decided to stop being Mike Tyson. Not because he was weak, because he was smart enough to know that the man he used to be would not survive this place. The fighter would throw a punch. The punch would be the excuse. The excuse would become a sentence extension. And the extension would become forever. So he became nobody, just like Earl. But here is where Tyson made his mistake. And it was a big one. He thought becoming invisible would be enough. He thought if he stayed quiet and followed the rules and kept his head down, the system would leave him alone. He thought he could wait them out. And for a few days that seemed to work. The guards backed off. The corridor was quiet. The routine returned. But Tyson did not realize something. The guards were not done with him. They were done with that phase. They were moving on to something worse. Something that did not require fists or batons. Something that would hit him harder than any punch ever could. They went after Earl. Started small. Earl's commissary was cancelled. No explanation. Then his yard time was cut in half. Then his cell was tossed 3 nights in a row. Books thrown on the floor. Mattress flipped. Coffee packs confiscated. Every small comfort that old man had built over 30 years, stripped away piece by piece. And Tyson saw it happening. He saw it and he understood exactly what it was. Punishment. Not for Earl. For him. The guards were saying, "You want to have a friend in here? Fine. Watch what happens to him. Believe me, that is a kind of cruelty that leaves no bruise. You cannot report it. You cannot fight it. You just have to stand there and watch someone you care about get ground down because of you." And Tyson, a man who had knocked out grown men in seconds. A man who once bit a piece of a man's ear off in front of the whole world. That man could do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Earl never complained. Not once. Every morning he showed up in the food line. Quiet. Steady. He ate his small portion. He walked his short yard time. He went back to his cell. He did not ask Tyson for help. He did not blame him. He just kept going. Minute by minute. The same way he had done for 3 decades. But Tyson was breaking. Not on the outside. On the inside. Every night he lay in his cell and listened to the guards toss Earl's cell next door. He heard the books hit the floor. He heard Earl say, "Yes, sir." He heard the cell door slam. And every single night his fists clenched tighter. The rage was building. Not the kind of rage that comes and goes. The deep kind. The kind that lives in your chest and grows roots. The kind that starts making decisions for you. One night, 3 weeks after the guards shifted their attention to Earl, Tyson heard something different. He heard Earl make a sound he had never heard him make before. A small sound. Almost nothing. A gasp. Then silence. Then boots walking away. Fast. Tyson pressed his face against the wall between their cells. "Earl. Earl, you all right?" "Nothing." "Earl." A long pause. Then Earl's voice. Thin. Broken. "I am all right, young man. Go to sleep." But he was not all right. Tyson knew it. And in that moment, lying in the dark with his face pressed against cold concrete, Mike Tyson made a decision. He was going to confront the guards. Not with his fists. That is what the old Tyson would have done. And the old Tyson would have lost everything. No. He was going to do something the guards never expected. Something Earl had been teaching him without even knowing it. He was going to use his voice. The next morning, Tyson did not go to the food line. He did not go to the yard. He walked straight to the warden's office. Now, you have to understand. An inmate does not just walk to the warden's office. You request a meeting. You fill out a form. You wait weeks. Tyson did none of that. He walked through 2 checkpoints. A guard grabbed his arm. Tyson looked at him and said, "You can write me up or you can let me through. Either way, I am going to that office." The guard let him through. Tyson walked into the warden's office. The warden was a man named James Venata. He was behind his desk. 2 guards stood near the door. Venata looked up. Surprised. Then not surprised. like he had been expecting this visit for a long time. Tyson stood in front of that desk and spoke. Calm, clear, every word deliberate. He told the warden about the beatings. He told him about the room with no camera. He told him about the new guard with the calm voice. He told him about Earl, about the commissary, the cell tosses, the sound Earl made last night. He named every guard. He gave dates, times, locations, and then he said the line that changed everything. I have not thrown a single punch since I walked through those gates. Not one. And I am not going to. But I am also not going to stay quiet while you break an old man who has done nothing wrong except talk to me. So here is what is going to happen. Either you stop what is happening on that tier, or I tell every reporter, every lawyer, and every camera that will listen exactly what goes on in this building after dark. And you know they will listen, because my name is still Mike Tyson. The room went quiet. Venata stared at him. The two guards by the door shifted their weight. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Venata leaned back in his chair and said, "Go back to your cell, Tyson." That was it. No promise. No agreement. No admission. Just 5 words. Go back to your cell. Tyson turned and walked out. He did not know if anything would change. He did not know if he had just made things 10 times worse. He walked back to his tier, sat down on his bed, and waited. That night, for the first time in 3 weeks, no one came to Earl's cell. No tossing, no boots, no sounds through the wall. Just quiet, real quiet. And in the cell next door, Tyson heard something he had never heard in all his time inside that prison. Earl laughing, soft, almost to himself. A small, tired laugh, like a man who had just remembered what it felt like to be left alone. That is the payoff. That is the moment. Not a knockout, not a brawl, not blood on the canvas. The most powerful thing Mike Tyson ever did was stand in front of a man with all the power and use nothing but his words. And it worked. Not because he was famous, because he was right, and because he had earned it by staying down every single time they wanted him to get up. If this story is hitting you the way it hit me, take a second. Subscribe. Stay with me, because what happens next? What Tyson's daughter reveals about Earl. That is the part that will stay with you. The months that followed were different. Not easy. Nothing inside those walls was ever easy. But different. The beatings stopped. Not all at once. They tapered off. Like a fire losing oxygen. The new guard with the calm voice was transferred to another facility within a week of Tyson's visit to the warden. Nobody said why. Nobody had to. 2 other guards were quietly moved to different shifts. And the corridor on Tyson's tier got still. Not peaceful. Still. There is a difference. Peaceful means safe. Still means someone made a decision to stop. And decisions can be reversed. Tyson understood that. He never let his guard all the way down. But he breathed a little easier. And so did Earl. Those last months are the ones Tyson's daughter talks about the most. Because that is when her father became someone new. Not all at once. Not in some big dramatic moment. In small, quiet ways that only someone paying attention would notice. Earl and Tyson sat together every day. Breakfast, yard, dinner. They talked. Really talked. Earl told him about his life before prison. A wife named Doreen who left after the first 5 years. A son he never met who was born 2 months after his sentencing. A mother who visited every Sunday for 20 years straight until her body could not make the trip anymore. Earl carried all of that. 30 years of loss, stacked up like stones in his chest. And he never once let it make him cruel. That is what changed Tyson. Not the beatings. Not the warden. Not the fear. It was watching a man who had every reason to be bitter choose kindness every single day. Earl had nothing. No release date. No money. No family waiting on the other side. And he still handed Tyson an extra piece of bread on the mornings when things were bad. He still said good morning. He still laughed at his own jokes. He still treated every person on that tier like they mattered. Even the ones who did not treat him the same way. Tyson told his daughter years later, "I met the best man I have ever known inside the worst place I have ever been. And I have never gotten over that. Now here is the part that breaks everything open. March 1995. Tyson's release date. He served 3 years of his 6-year sentence. Good behavior. No infractions. Not a single incident on his record. The system had nothing on him. He walked out the front gate into a crowd of cameras and reporters and noise. Flashbulbs. Microphones. People screaming his name. The world wanted Mike Tyson back. The fighter. The entertainer. The headline. But before he walked through that gate, he stopped at Earl's cell one last time. The guards let him. Maybe they felt guilty. Maybe they just did not care anymore. Tyson stood in the doorway. Earl sat on his bed. Same thin mattress. Same steel toilet. Same small window too high to see out of. Nothing had changed in that cell in 30 years. And nothing would change in the years to come. Tyson did not know what to say. He had knocked out 35 men in professional boxing. He had stood in front of millions. He had talked his way through press conferences and courtrooms and television studios. But standing in that doorway, looking at that old man on that bed, he could not find a single word. Earl spoke first, because Earl always spoke first. He said, "You are going to want to be angry when you get out there. The world is going to poke you, test you, try to make you be the man you were before. Do not let them. You know who you are now. That is enough." Tyson nodded. He reached out and put his hand on Earl's shoulder. Just for a moment, Earl placed his own hand on top of Tyson's. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. Everything that mattered had already been said through walls and silence and mornings in the food line. Then Tyson turned and walked away. He did not look back. He told his daughter he could not look back because if he did, he would not have been able to leave. And a man who cannot leave a prison even after the doors are open. That is a different kind of sentence altogether. Tyson walked out of the Indiana Youth Center on March 25, 1995. He went back to boxing. He fought again. He made millions again. He made mistakes again. The ear, the outbursts, the chaos. The world saw all of that. The world judged all of that. But what the world never saw was what happened every single month without fail. A check, sent from an account with no name attached, to the Indiana Department of Corrections. Earmarked for one inmate, Earl. Commissary funds, medical supplements, extra blankets in winter, small things, the kinds of things that made a life sentence just a little less like dying. Tyson never told anyone, not his managers, not his wives, not his promoters, just him and a quiet wire transfer month after month, year after year. Earl died in the spring of 1995, 2 weeks after Tyson walked free. He died in his cell, alone. The cause of death was listed as cardiac arrest. He was 64 years old. He had spent 42 years inside. No one claimed his body. No family came. No service was held. He was buried in an unmarked plot in a small cemetery outside Plainfield, Indiana. The kind of place where the grass is patchy and the headstones, the ones that exist, lean to one side. Tyson found out 3 days later. His daughter says he did not speak for 2 full days after getting the call. He sat in a room in his house and stared at the wall, the same way he sat on that metal bed the first night inside. Full circle. The cell door slamming shut all over again. Except this time, the man on the other side of the wall was gone. Here is the final detail. The one Tyson never wanted anyone to know. Every year since 1995, without exception, Tyson has paid for the maintenance of Earl's grave. The grass is cut. The plot is kept clean. And 5 years ago, Tyson quietly paid for a small headstone to be placed there. Nothing fancy, just a name and 2 lines. Earl. He taught a fighter how to be a man. Tyson's daughter says her father has visited that grave 6 times. Always alone. Always early in the morning before anyone else is at the cemetery. He does not bring flowers. He does not pray. He just stands there. Sometimes for 10 minutes. Sometimes for an hour. And every time before he leaves he says the same thing. The same words Earl said to him through the wall on the worst night of his life. Stay down, young man. Stay down. That is the story. Not of a knockout. Not of a comeback. not of fame or fortune or fury. The story of a man who learned the hardest lesson there is. That real strength is not about what you can do to someone. It is about what you can stop yourself from doing. And he learned it from a man the world never knew, in a place the world never saw. And he has been honoring that lesson quietly for over 30 years. Some battles are lost not by fighting, but by staying still. And some men become who they were meant to be, not under the lights, but in the dark, with no one watching, choosing not to swing.